What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I want to talk to you guys about possible middleweight fights. Jamal Charlo had an interesting fight with Matt Karabov, which a lot of people have mixed feelings about, including myself. It was a tough fight for Jamal, as well as Jermell. But, Jamal did show that he can take a punch. He showed that he has some things to work on, but and to his credit, he was expected to fight another fighter, not someone as difficult than Matt Karabal. Karabal was one of those guys that he's like a wild card. That sleeping giant in the middleweight division. That guy with only one loss as of that date. Very tricky. Very very underrated. They pulled him out of a hat. So it was one of those situations where he took the person that was a replacement, and then, and a lot of people sometimes rather, they get it wrong. Look at Pacquiao Ledwaba, back in the day. That's how Manny Pacquiao got his name for knocking out Ledwaba, which Ledwaba was at 122, which was the champion at that time, and Manny was just a replacement. Okay, so these things do happen in the sport of boxing sometimes, but the thing is, Jamal Charlo, of course, he's adamant on wanting Canelo. Now, if I'm Canelo or Oscar De La Hoya and I'm seeing this performance, how likely am I wanting to put Canelo in there now? Because normally when these guys they struggle with certain fighters, they show vulnerability. However, Canelo's nothing like Karabov. They're a southpaw. It's a totally different style, but a lot of times when these fighters are hungry like that and they catch a snag or they hit a snag, uh, they show their vulnerability. And for a fight like Jamal Charlo and Canelo Alvarez now, I seen it being more realistic because of the struggles and the difficulty that, Jamal had fighting Karabal. It'll still be a good fight because we know that a fight between Jamal, you know, and Canelo would be a good fight. These guys were at 154 together, were undefeated together. Well, once upon a time, and at the middleweight, I think Jamal now would be chosen to fight Canelo simply because he looks beatable. He looks like, okay, well, we've seen what other fighters can do with him. Okay, um, he would be a good stepping stone to keep his feet wet. If he didn't want to take on the other champions, like someone tricky like Demetrius Andrade or Daniel Jacobs, if those fights don't come into fruition, hey, why not Jamal Charlo? Because Jamal Charlo is a fighter that does come forward. He is aggressive. He is tough. He can take those punches. I don't necessarily know about Canelo's punching power at there because he's still untested, really. With other fighters in the middleweight division. You know what I mean? So, um, but that would be a good fight that could be showcased for Canelo. Because it's all about getting the right type of fights with the zone, and and they do need a fighter from PBC to make that reality, to make that happen. Because if you don't have that fighter from PBC, Charlo is kind of out. Everyone's sure they would like to see a Golovkin 3, but you know it would be a good asset for Canelo fighting Charlo and beating Charlo to get Charlo out of the way so Golovkin don't really have to bother him. And he has a one up on Golovkin because Golovkin was mandated to fight this guy, and which is, as of now, he hasn't done so. He's trying to figure out where his next home is going to be. So, that would be good for Canelo to take on Jamal Charlo, and it still would be a good fight. I like the Charlos. I'll support Charlo, but I don't know if he'll beat Canelo, honestly, because I think Canelo now, he looked good at 168. He might stay there. This is all speculation, of course, but he is still the champ at middleweight. He's still the WBA and the WBC. Jamal is the WBC interim champion. So, I don't know what the desire would be besides keeping himself busy to fight Charlo along with him looking vulnerable in that fight. So it would be a good fight, a good test for Canelo because Jamal hits hard. He can punch. Okay, look at Carball. He had that power going into the 12th round. So, I don't think that Canelo would take him lightly, but at the same time, I don't think that um Canelo can't deal with Jamal, but he is a bigger guy. So again, he could be a good barometer for someone like Jacobs. But Jacobs, he has better. I think he's quicker. He has better skill. And if he doesn't just necessarily just want to get in there with Jacobs right now, he might want to take on Jamal Charlo, and that would be a good fight for him, especially after the performance that Jamal had. So and then people tend to jump on fighters that look vulnerable. So why not, right? Of course, you guys tell me what you think about Canelo and Charlo. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Merry Christmas. Peace.